Backseat Drivers time. Good evening and welcome to Backseat Drivers number 15 for 2023 on a very exciting weekend for motorsport fans where we got to see Joseph Newgarden narrowly stop Marcus Ericsson from winning his second Indy500 in a row. And there was a race at Monaco that it felt like a race. To talk about that and many things more this week, we have Besties with Esty.
Hey!
I'm not sure if I quite get that reference, but...
Team Alpine all the way.
And we've got Super Sub Buffy filling in for Rob, who's a little bit under the weather this week.
G'day.
I heard contract negotiations went bad and we got rid of him.
Well, maybe he's on gardening leave. So, do we kick it off with the Indy 500 or Monaco?
I think we just get rid of Monaco first.
Let's just get rid of Monaco. I think
less happened at Monaco than I'd say at Indy.
I'd have to admit,
that's the only thing.
The last few years, and this year once again, I sat down on Monday morning. I got up early to watch Indy 500. I'd been to bed early, missed Monaco, and then watched it afterwards. This actually had me, in the end, wasn't a thrilling race if you're after, constant overtaking, blah, blah, blah. But it was one of those where you were on the edge of your seat, like something might actually happen. It didn't quite eventuate in the end, but it was
always
like it was a classic kind of Grand Prix where there was the potential of it kind of happening.
I made the wrong choice, Dave, by watching Monaco. And you know what the most exciting thing about watching the Monaco Grand Prix was, Dave? There was an earthquake.
Oh, yes.
That was the most exciting thing that happened during the Grand Prix.
Yes.
See, I essentially slept through that, so...
Oh.
No, Matt and I were awake during that.
Yeah, we were watching the Monaco. I incorrectly predicted that there would be... I was hoping for a much larger crash at the end instead of Junior Stroll just playing pinball and bouncing around.
He did try to crash into everyone, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know what it was like? It was like he's just started... You know when you give a kid a steering wheel and they've only seen what's on TV and you're always driving like this? I think Lance just assumed that you have to keep the steering wheel moving to show that you're doing something. Like if you keep it still, his dad might think he doesn't actually do anything on the team or bring any points or cost the team money or should get rid of him or, as Rob said, replace him with the correct Canadian and get rid of the other Canadian.
Jack Villeneuve.
Can they do Canadian swaps in F1?
Of course you can.
Well,
I mean, they swap Australians. You can just swap
you
a
could
Canadian.
get
Exactly.
Hinchcliffe in, maybe.
Possibly.
Another Canadian that's better.
Any Canadian?
I'll think of his name shortly. Anyway, it does seem like there's a bit of pressure on him at the moment.
You'd hope so. You'd hope that his dad's had talks to him and just said, look, son, the old man's showing you up. I can't keep telling the board there's a good reason I keep you on the team. I can't keep saying, oh, look out. This week is Lance's race. He's going to...
Apparently, there is a bit of the after effects of the breaking his wrists before the start of the season. Apparently, that has affected him. Yeah, more than kind of what they're making out. Okay. But in previous years, he was pretty close to Perez. He was pretty close to Seb. I think this weekend was probably a bit like Perez's effort was highlighted the chasm between the two drivers.
Just a quick question, Dave.
Yeah.
If you're an F1 driver, I know this for other sports. Some of the sports that I watch, you're specifically banned from going skiing, especially close to the start of a season.
It really depends on the contracts and things like that. So you had this situation with Kubica. I'm trying to think, that was 2012, I think, where he went rallying. Some of them have in their contracts and that they can't do things like that.
Rallying, I understand, but because there was a book I read basically where a rich American buys a round circular object on the ground team and basically invites one of their best players to come skiing with him, and the player has to explain to him that these round objects on grass players are not allowed to while they're under contract with any team. It's just a given that you don't do,
anything dangerous.
So I think you'd probably find, like going through the field, that like Lewis, George, Max, probably Leclerc, Sainz, all kind of have in their contracts that they can't go and do things like that.
But they're probably not that stupid. Like I like to give Lewis and George a lot of crap, but I'm pretty sure if George was told, "Hey, some of your friends are going skiing," he would know. No, I can't.
Yeah. So some of them also probably within a certain time frame of like the start of the season and things like that. So, but then like Webber was probably quite famous that he went and did things that others probably wouldn't.
Oh, the Tasmania stuff.
Yeah, and say like I'm pretty sure he would still mountain bike during the season, whereas other drivers probably are only allowed out on road bikes. Although speak to Fernando about having crashes on road bikes. And then you've got like Montoya, who had his tennis accident that no one believes he was off playing tennis. It was probably more like a motorbike.
Like Homer Simpson crashing his car. I was at the pornography store buying pornography.
Whereas like Lance's contract's probably a little bit more wishy-washy than some of the other guys.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if his dad was like, "Come along with me. I've told some of my workmates that they can meet an F1 driver. I just didn't tell them which one." So they've gotten all excited because they think they're meeting Alonso.
You can meet, you can meet an F1 driver. One of our F drivers is Fernando Alonso. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it today. Here's the other one.
He's my son.
We had
it's just a coincidence we have the same surname.
Dave, we went to a circular object on the grass where they pulled that kind of stunt, where they said this person plays on that team, and then when you looked them up, they were loaned out straight away, so they never technically played for said team.
Oh wow!
So yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine his dad uses that line a lot. He's like, I know an F1 driver, and they get all excited. They're like, "I would love to meet two-time world champion and rookie of the year." And they're like, "You would, so would I." But anyway, here's my son. Also, good news, he's the waiter for tonight because he's not making me any money. He certainly doesn't bring points to the team.
Oh boy! But apart from Stroll with his injuries and that, which is probably not driving to his best at the moment. What do you think of the race? Apart from it getting wet,
do we think Alonso could have won?
Yes.
Yeah.
If he made the call to Inters early,
he didn't do it because it would exacerbate how bad his teammate would be, and he really doesn't need to keep going on about how bad his son is.
I never thought about it that way. That's a good conspiracy theory.
That's a good conspiracy theory, but I'm just thinking they just stuffed up with the strategy.
No, Booby, you got to do what I do after each race and just look up the nutcases on F1.
Oh, you mean F1 Twitter? Yeah, I won't do that. No way.
No, not F1 Twitter. Just look up people's like conspiracy theories on like basically from what I heard, Alonso sort of knew that he couldn't really complain about the strategy because it would just show how bad his son is. And right now, as we all have agreed, Alonso gets 90% of his income from just talking up Lance. Like at any chance, he just needs to say, you know what? He put a good effort in and he's a real team player. Now, can I have some more money, please?
That's my bonus for this week.
Yeah, yep. I think he's been paid as his like best friend. He's not there as he's just a bonus that he's a 2-time world champion, but he's also Lance's best friend and has to be seen with him at Monaco. I think they went to the casino together and then they had to take a selfie and prove it to the dad so he would give him his paycheck.
All jokes aside though, like that was a very strange move when other people were putting on the intermediates at that point. And I thought Lance had already stopped and put intermediates on.
Yeah.
So in that situation, wouldn't you have been better off just going, hey, okay, the intermediates aren't working on Lance's car, but other people are coming in for intermediates. How about we just wait another, like essentially what Max did, which nearly caught him out waiting that extra lap. But you would have been better off waiting the extra lap rather than stopping for the wrong tyre.
Yeah.
Well, they were also saying that Lance didn't give them enough data with his bumper car driving. So they were sort of under the impression that they didn't know what the tyres were meant to do. Whereas in any other team, and it hurts me to say this, even with like McLaren, who actually, and, you know, even Williams did,
Williams, the other one batting with one driver.
Basically.
Well, have we decided that Williams is just one person on the team now, and the other one's pretty much just counting down till he's
counting down the days.
He must be on like a formal, like, you know, at work, and they're like, you're on your third and final warning because you got drunk at the office party. He must be on that kind of warning.
It's a tough one, but as well, like, what was the radio comment? Something like, "Oh, we're going to put you on the hard tires so you can learn how they work."
No, it was a soft tire.
The
soft tire.
The soft, yeah.
And learn about tire degradation.
Yeah, which you can look at it two ways, as they're actually investing, like, hey, we're not going to get a result. We're Monaco, you're at the back. We're not going to get points. Let's use this as an extended test session because we don't get testing. But there's also a bit like, fuck me, that was, yeah.
How bad are you, the fact that we're doing that to you?
Yeah, that's pretty bad that we're fully announcing that to the world. Like,
exactly.
Hey, we don't have confidence in you and we don't want to look like we put you on a bad strategy. So we are going to point it out to the world that you need to learn what you're doing with tyres.
Yeah.
I just feel like, Lance didn't really give them much. Yeah, it was weird that it was only wetting like a little. It was almost like, Dave, it was a video game like Mario Kart, and someone has just decided Sector 2, we're going to put the squid ink everywhere, and that's the only bit you got to worry about.
But at that point, though, Sector 2 seemed to be getting wetter.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like Fernando had to, like, Max was probably in a more precarious position with the worn out mediums, whereas Fernando was on the hards that could probably still keep going. They were in a better position than Max at that point to continue further. And
I think it was the direction of the wind that was just saying it started all in Sector 2, then eventually slowly pushed across the entire track.
Yeah.
Rain for
and it was like it was very unlucky that he stopped that lap, and that was essentially when it then all of a sudden came across the whole track. Yeah. Like, because it was kind of fine, change tyres, not fine.
Yeah.
So it was very unlucky. But also at that point, it's like, well, we could hang on for a couple more laps. It's not like the Ocon had already stopped, so they had the gap behind. Like that didn't matter. There was no pressure from behind. So worst case, you finish second. Best case, you win. Why not?
You win the race. Yeah.
Yeah. Why not? And stopping there was no chance that it was going to jump you into first position.
Yeah.
So
anyway, it's something they'll learn from, and hopefully we'll see something in that. Yeah, Rob's definitely saying that. We'll see what happens. Although I haven't seen the extended forecast for Spain, but I will check it out probably probably tomorrow. I'll have a look while I'm at work to see if it's going to rain all weekend. So that might make it very interesting if it's going to rain all weekend.
Also, did everyone see the greatest radio messages by everyone's favorite radio announcer, Yuki FM, who was told to, go faster in the wet, to which he replied, "Are you trying to fucking kill me?"
Yes, that was awesome. That was brilliant.
I
remember that.
Yuki FM talking to his engineers who basically go, "Hey Yuki, can you go faster?" And he just responds, "Nah, the car's fucking shit. Piss off. I'm driving here." Every race, it's the same thing. Unless Yuki was first, I feel like the engineers, and rightly so, ask him, "Can you just go a little faster?" To which he responds, "Nah, get fucked." I love it.
Oh yeah, he is very he looks very calm in the outside. He must get he must just get white line fever as soon as he gets into the car and just starts getting a lot more agitated.
Did you see? Yeah, Brundle chatted to him, and he seemed very relaxed.
I wonder what's going on there though, because obviously Yuki's under a lot of pressure the way he's reacting, and he's making De Vries look pretty ordinary. So normally in that kind of situation,
most people make De Vries look pretty ordinary.
Well,
I mean, Dave, if I could drive to Monaco and not crash into a pole, they'd be like, "What are you doing? Are you free?"
If you look at the other, like the one-sided teammate battles out there, you don't like. Max doesn't seem to be under the same kind of pressure. Fernando doesn't seem to be under the same kind of pressure. Albon doesn't seem to be under that kind of. Whereas Yuki seems to be under a lot of pressure still, even though like he's comprehensively beating his teammate. Like,
but you got to look at it, Dave. Alonso's not under any pressure because his dad's not going to tell him off. Max isn't under any pressure because Red Bull's a happy family and Vin Diesel runs it.
Yep.
McLaren, no one's under any pressure because they don't need that kind of negative press.
Yeah, but it's not like Piastri's.
He's not that far behind.
Like there isn't that kind of, there's a fair chasm between a few of the teammate battles, and it's just like, does Yuki know? Like he's not progressing to Red Bull.
No.
Other teams aren't looking at him. And then...
But you're not going to get rid of him.
You're not going to get rid of him. You won't get rid of him.
Like, what happens if Toro Rosso is actually...
sold?
For sale, yeah.
You reckon he knows something and he's basically... They sell one or both?
He just seems to be quite...
I think he's just highly strung.
There could just be that as well.
I reckon, like his demeanor outside the car.
Little individual.
Small man syndrome in the car.
Well, it could be that as well.
Maybe he's just patiently waiting for Honda to give him a seat.
A seat.
Well, his problem now probably is though that the Aston Martin thing's too far away, and from what I understand is that Aston Martin are paying, or Pipistrel's paying Honda to use the engines rather than Honda providing engines and funding.
Do you reckon that's a desperate attempt so Honda can't come in and go, "We need to kick out one of the drivers"? You know which one?
I think it's partly because Honda spent a lot of money with McLaren and it was a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
And then they've basically come into the Red Bull deal only having to supply engines, because Honda was supplying McLaren a lot of money as well as free engines, whereas from what I understand, they've been supplying Red Bull engines.
Yeah.
Now the deal with Aston Martin is that Aston Martin are paying for the engines.
Okay, fair enough.
So
because of that,
so it's a cost neutral thing for Honda to run this program with Aston Martin, whereas at the moment it's costing them the engine building, whereas it was a marketing and engine building cost with McLaren. So it's for Honda, it's a cost neutral exercise to go with Aston Martin. So that's where the driver decisions come in.
Okay. So basically, with that, it just gives Papa Stroll more freedom in terms of who he can select as a driver or drivers in his team.
Not more freedom, just he can desperately hold on to his son to join that team.
But eventually...
he can decide who goes in the number one seat.
Yeah.
Until Mrs. Stroll stops saying you have to employ son.
Yeah. Now, do you reckon Lance knows that he's number 2? Or does he get told something?
You'd think so.
I feel like maybe Mrs. Stroll goes, no, don't listen to Dad. You're number 1 in our hearts. I don't know what it is like on the track, but...
Yeah, okay.
Some people are a bit delusional, like Perez, thinking that they can challenge. Maybe Stroll in his head, he still thinks he can challenge Fernando.
Okay.
Maybe Dave thinks that next race Perez won't be racing and Daniel Ricciardo will make a magic appearance.
Well, he did not do his career any favours over the weekend, did he?
Definitely not.
That is true.
You can imagine not only trashing the car, but also getting it lifted up so
people can have a look.
Ferrari and Mercedes and all that can, because everyone would have had everyone would have had a good laugh that, hey, look at, Hamilton's crashed the car. We can find, like, Red Bull would have been looking at those photos going, oh, okay, now I understand why Mercedes is so shit. And then the next day, all of a sudden now Mercedes can go, oh, now I can understand why the Red Bull's so fast.
Have done anything to stop that, Dave?
No.
Like when you're lifting it up, chuck a tarp underneath it or something?
You can't go out there and put a tarp underneath it. The teams would have loved to have done that.
Yeah.
They can't.
But
because
unfortunately...
I just feel like you really don't ever see the under of a team's car unless they do it like a Mark Webber and go...
Yeah.
Or
the big thing now is...
Silverstone.
Yeah. The big thing now is that there's so much downforce from the floor as well.
Yeah.
So, whereas previously it didn't matter so much, whereas now it's a massive
makes
thing.
A big difference. So now they can have a look saying, okay, Red Bull's done this and this and this. Oh, that's how they're making the airflow underneath the car properly to keep it down. And that's why when it goes in DRS mode, they're like rocket ships.
Yeah, so does that mean, like, let's say you've got they don't, but let's say Mercedes has their Mercedes equivalent of Nuri, and he looks at it and goes, oh, yeah, I can see why they've done this. Can they then, I don't know, work around the clock for the next week and somehow...
No, it'll take a couple... No, a week will be too short to do all that. It'll take
can they at least...
a couple of races.
Can they build a test, like, at all, and say, here's what I think it is. I'm going to go back to my McLaren factory and build, like, a mock-up.
Well, they can do all that. They can produce a model in CAD, and then from that CAD model, they can do CFD fluid dynamic models to see how it's actually going to affect the car and that. And from that, they'll have a fair idea of what's going to happen. And if they need wind tunnel time, they'll produce a 60% size part of that, and they can test it. But they'll get they'll get about 80% of their information just from the computer analysis of the changes that they've made and see how it actually affect their car.
Also, would they have people that have very high resolution cameras just sitting there just in case this happens?
Yep.
Matt, all those photographers, like you can see, like there's people.
Yeah, no, I understand the photographers are taking the photo.
Yeah, but
would one of the photographers sell those photos to?
Of course.
McLaren, can they do that?
Of course.
And the teams possibly even have their own photographers.
That's what I meant.
They
Yeah,
probably
I
do
would
have
imagine there'd be a
photographers
guy
around,
whose
yeah.
job it is, and then this is
Yeah.
his like big moment to shine that he
Yeah.
quickly takes a photo of the Red Bull car. Yeah.
I guarantee you, Matt, they'll have spies all over the track. They would have spies, like they'll be.
Not spies,
they're
Booby.
probably-
No one spies in F1. Certainly not McLaren or Ferrari or anyone. So.
They would have undercover.
Booby, they have people who walk around that just happen to be in the right place at the right time, right
So
under the
social
car.
media people.
Oh, look at that.
So social media people walking around the track. Is that the best way of putting it?
It's probably the same people that found the diamond that fell off their car. They're probably just in the right place at the right time. I've watched that footage again, Dave. One of those construction workers seems to be way too conveniently close to the nose of the car. I don't know who he is.
You've spent more time on this than what I have.
Yeah, for sure.
Dave, the YouTube algorithm knows me too well. It basically, I end up watching, there's a channel that shows the highlights of, what did I watch? The 1982 Detroit F1.
Oh,
That was a thrilling race.
Okay.
In good news, they're going back to proper Detroit racing this weekend.
Oh,
really?
Indy, yeah.
IndyCar.
IndyCar, mate.
Yeah, they will be using part of that old
Old
F1
track.
track.
Oh,
Yeah.
really nice.
Where they have been racing on the Belle Isle track for many a moon.
Okay.
Also-
they're actually going back to proper downtown
Cool.
Detroit.
Just a
On the
little bit of
streets.
F1 fine news
Mhm.
because I ended up reading the F1 rules of 2023.
Yep.
So if you speed in pit lane, you will be fined €100 for every kilometre you go over, but it is capped at $1,000.
Or
Guess who
1,000
got
euros.
fined 100 whole euros on the weekend?
George?
George Russell got fined 100 euros for speeding in pit lane.
1 kilometre over the speed limit. Wow.
Yeah, 100 whole euros he got fined.
So that means he was going 61 kilometres per hour then.
If you do 61 in a 60 zone in Victoria, I think you lose your license, don't you?
No, you're fine. You're fine, Matt. You go up to
$400
63.
fine and 8 demerit points.
Don't get me started on that.
Oh, sounds like Booby just got caught recently.
Yeah.
Last year.
And he's still complaining about it.
Of course I am. Of course I'm going to complain about it. All right. So I think with F1,
we covered that off.
yeah, I just want to say our predictions. How did we actually go with them? 'Cause
Yes,
Rob now decided-
Yes, the Lord of Predictions has returned.
So going by on the sheet, we've had the actual result was Max.
Fernando.
Who wrote Hamilton? Yeah, it should be Fernando. Who wrote Hamilton there? And then Ocon.
You, I think.
No, I wouldn't have wrote that. That wasn't me. That was Rob. Rob would have done this, not me.
Rob would have let the Gotifi. He would have never written Hamilton.
I
true.
think I laughed when Matt said Ocon to be in the top
Yeah.
three.
And the fact
And
he actually
that
put him
was
in the right
actually,
spot,
that
that was
was,
good.
yeah.
That was great. That was actually
For a
good
bit
call,
there, it looked like it was going to be Alonso Ocon front row.
Yeah, it did.
And then Max did that sector 3.
I know, exactly.
From nowhere.
Ridiculous. Exactly.
What?
So-
I
Jeez,
feel like Max has got a little
No, it's
cheat button on his. What was it? The old one, party mode. He's got
Yeah,
a secret
party
party
mode.
mode. At the,
Something
but
like
that,
that.
that was just purely like, oh,
It
well,
was just
fuck it,
stuff
pole
it.
or bust.
exactly.
And he
I think
just,
now-
George was right.
unleashed.
They're holding back, and he's only doing enough to get him onto pole, but not like by a lot. It's just enough
Yeah.
that they're like, oh, he's just
No,
they're
no.
catching up on him. He's like, no, you're not.
that was just, everyone's like, oh, it's over. And you're like, that's such a short set. There's no way he's going to get 2 tenths.
Yeah,
It's 2
no way.
tenths down. That's done.
Dave,
And he
I
ends
don't
up
know
a
if you
10th up.
know, but the microphone picked up Max's thing in that last bit. When they did the lap, he actually said too soon, racer boy,
Junior.
pushed the NOS button and went through.
Changed up into 9th gear. And
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
he found those extra gears that he like aggressively changes into. and
Alright.
ended up getting the points.
Is it up or down that they change?
9 would be at the top.
It'd be somewhere up there. Yeah. It'd be
Yeah.
up and God knows where now.
He's got a truck transmission, doesn't he? 1, 2,
Something
3, 4,
like
5,
that.
6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay. So yeah, with that, in terms of the way now that just letting everybody know now, we're actually going to record who's predicting what now, and then at the end of the season, somebody wins something. I have no idea. We're just doing it for glory's sake. I have no idea.
Well, Rob decided the scoring system, so I think he's got to organise a prize.
Yes, he does. So Rob, I know he's watching. So Rob,
I think Rob's going to get a hat made for us that says F1 champion.
F1 prediction champion or whatever.
We could do like a backseat drivers championship prediction winner mug or something.
Yeah, and we pass it on every year.
No. It gets a year on it, Booby. It's,
2023.
Okay, fair enough. So, according to this,
E-Scooter wants to join in. I think you can join in late. That
should be okay.
Yeah. What were you?
It'll look.
What were your predictions from Monaco?
Yeah, tell us now. We'll trust you.
Okay. So currently with Rob's scoring, Matt's got 3 points. I've got 2. Dave, you managed to get 1 point, and Rob couldn't predict it at all.
That's pretty bad that he's made his own scoring system and
he's got no points.
Yeah, he's not even cheating it for himself to win.
I mean, Dave,
exactly.
Have you seen? Remember when Rob picked the 3 and I laughed at him and I said none of those will be correct, and then I was correct. Let's all remember that. I told him not to do that, and he went and did it. Oh, look at that! E-Scooter got it all correct.
Convenient.
I know.
All right.
You know what, E-Scooter? I'll give you those points if you can correctly predict Spain. That means that you definitely know everything about F1.
Okay. How's that? Is that a deal, E-Scooter? Or
so
what?
do we do our Spain predictions now?
Yeah.
I think we should. Let's get them out of the...
All right, so I've already got my one. So
remember, you can't pick Max, Checo, and Alonso every time. You can only pick one.
I know that. So I've already picked Alonso. So... Oh, wait a second. Alonso. Okay, so we've got to change it. So this time, I'll have to change that then.
Am I going to
I have to change it.
So who are the 3 that we can't pick every week?
Alonso,
Max, Checo, and Alonso.
Checo and Alonso.
The triple threat.
Oh, the
so last week
the podiums.
The podium boys.
Does that start this week or does that include last week? Because
that starts now.
Starts now? Okay, in that case, I can choose Max.
So I get a Checo.
You don't take your Checo for next week. What if Checo's not even racing next week, Dave?
All right, so this is how I got Max 1.
Dan.
I'm going.
So let me do this one person at a time. All right. So my one is it's going to be Verstappen, Leclerc, and then Hamilton. That's my Spain predictions.
I mean, that's almost as safe as picking Checo and Alonso, but okay.
Okay. Well, who are yours, Matt?
All right, I'm going to go Alonso.
Yep.
I think Norris will get 3rd.
Norris the 3rd, okay.
Second, I'm going to go Russell.
Ooh, this is going to make it really interesting.
Watch as I score all the points and I look like a genius. And then people will try to read my mind and wonder where all this comes from. And then I'll say it's all powered by Pepsi Max.
Well, I have to put Checo in there.
No, you don't. You can choose anybody. You just
don't choose one of Checo, Max, and Alonso.
Yeah, so I used
Max
and Alonso.
Doesn't matter.
I didn't use Max last week.
No, you didn't. You can't choose Max.
So I did Max. 3 points.
Okay, who's your second and third place?
We'll put in a
They've got
Russ.
3 points.
Yeah, we'll put in a Russell. And I'll give Sainz a podium for his home race. Imagine if Alonso got up this weekend.
Oh, geez.
I'd like that very much. I want those points.
Rob, can you put in the comments who you're picking this week?
Yeah, and Chuck E-Scooters in there so we can actually keep track of what he's doing, because I'm not sure I'm going to believe him next week unless we have evidence of this.
Are you trying to say that E-Scooter might be dishonest with last week's picks?
If I had the opportunity, 100% I would be dishonest with it.
But you're not as trustworthy as E-Scooter, Dave. That's why he's the sports commissioner.
Well, I'm just, I just think how I'd play it if I was him. So
okay, so E-Scooter, you can only choose one of Max, Checo, and Alonso. So you got to change. So you can't have Max and Checo. You got to change. You got to choose somebody else.
Unless he keeps Checo and he can't use Checo for the next. He can't use Max and Checo for the next 2 weeks.
Is that too?
This is getting complicated to keep track of. Good thing Rob's going.
Good thing Rob's picking this.
He's the one that decided to do this.
Look, Rob can figure it out at the end of the week.
Yeah. Let Rob sort out the rules.
He can sort out the rules.
Dave, are we still confident that a Checo Max super crash is going to happen this season?
Well, he's got to learn how to qualify again.
That's true.
Yeah.
So maybe it might not even happen in the race. It might happen in qualifying.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the problem is now Mercedes has got some side pods.
They got new pods.
Yeah.
Thank you, E-Scooter. He's actually changed it, so it's following our rules.
I mean, was that a once-off for Alpine? Are they going to be up kind of closer?
I like that very much.
You've already got Ferrari not far off the pace. You've got Alonso not far off the pace. You're starting to get where you're going to have people in between them.
Yeah, I reckon that Checo is going to start getting very desperate to keep things. I reckon he's going to be the one that's going to bump into Max, and it's because it's going to be purely his fault, and it's going to infuriate Max.
Oh yeah,
to the point where he pretty much says, "Get rid of him, bring back in Dan."
Yeah, I think that
Dan's crashed into him as well.
That was
Sorry, I'm just reading his comments. I'm just reading E-Scooter's comment.
E-Scooter, that's like predicting if Williams don't get any points.
Has he got like the Latifi never finished last thing though, where other people retired out of the race, so technically he wasn't last?
I believe that's known as the Rob rule, Dave.
That's the Rob rule, yeah. That is known as the Latifi Rob rule.
Wait, I'm just...
You checking the results so far?
Here we go. Let's have a quick look. He finished 20 in Miami.
In his home race.
Though, you know who still got the Rob rule?
He gets three home races this year, though.
No, but Miami was technically his home race because he grew up just up the road from Miami.
Oh, so is he? Okay.
He's a Florida man.
Though old Nick has never finished last. He's also never scored points.
Nick DeVries.
Nick DeVries. Old Nick DeVries. It's got a Y in it, Dave. So you got to really
Yeah. What's with these people spelling their names funnily?
I know, right?
Mm.
Oh, I just realized now. I mean, it makes sense, but he could technically say that he's in the Dutch winning team. Because there's a hockey player who has a brother, and together they have the average of the best because he's one of the greatest ice hockey players ever, and his brother was a guy who showed up to games. This is pretty much Nick DeVries. He shows up.
Back in the olden days of Champ Car, they used to do like a Nations Cup thing or whatever, where you would get at the end of they would do points, and typically America would do very well because a large portion of the field in kart, Champ Car, IndyCar, American drivers. Except for the odd time where you had like Alex Zanardi totally dominating the championship, and one person from Italy made them finish like they were like the third scoring nation or whatever. When you were up against like 10 Americans and 5 Canadians or something like that, and then one Italian basically nearly knocked off. You could, say with all the Max's points.
Imagine doing that now in IndyCar.
Actually,
it'd be interesting to add it up.
It would.
Because the 500 did have a lot of... Sorry, Spain second.
So Spain would be second on 141 points. Max Verstappen, Team Max Verstappen would be 144. Now, just to break that down for you, in case you didn't work out the math, Max Verstappen has 144 points, and De Vries has 0. So 0 plus 144 gets you 144. Alonso has 93, and Carlos has 48. So adding that together gets you 141. But just to alliterate, Dave, Nick De Vries has 0 points, and Max has 144.
What's Team Mexico? What's Team Mexico?
Mexico's 104. So Alonso is actually getting... it's 105. Okay. But so that's 12 points between Checo and Alonso.
Yeah.
So that's really like, if Checo has a bad qualifying again and Alonso, say, comes second this weekend, all of a sudden, well, I mean, Max is going to win, but all of a sudden that puts Alonso second in the championship.
Okay.
And that starts to look really bad.
Yes, it does.
But then does it also look bad for Alonso that he's so far ahead that Team Canada is in currently 8th, so that's not the worst, is it?
That's not too bad. What, in the Nations Championship?
No, in the constructors, the real one, Bookie, the one. No, they're not following our country one yet. Big F1 wants to keep us down.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just checking out the weather now for Barcelona. I thought I'd decide to check it. Looks like Friday, Saturday, it's partly cloudy weather. So we'll get dry practice and qualifying and a wet race. So that should be interesting.
So Max will get front. It'll rain. He'll spin out and crash. Alonso will drive through. And then McLaren will take second or third.
No, it will start to rain and then Alonso will pit for slicks.
No, he'll go for the...
He'll specifically ask for super soft.
No. He'll, instead of putting the intermediate, he'll put the wet tire on. That could happen too.
So,
all right. So I think that's
Indy500.
Yes. Matt, you've got questions.
Can I just start? I've never really seen a full Indy500 race. Holy crap, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Compared to Monaco looked like a Sunday afternoon historical drive, and Indy500 looks like what happens when you let 6-year-olds design a race car and race meeting. I don't understand how the pit stops work. Basically, it's drive in at full speed, and then when you're leaving, do a mad drift, and if you see an opponent here, just knock him out, keep going. Do not care about anyone's safety. Just take out pit crew, take out anyone that's in your way, Dave. They're just holding you back. Just straight through them.
I'd have to admit, like, the pit crews in Indy and NASCAR's somewhat similar.
Yeah,
They've got balls.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Especially the whatever would be the right front tire changer, say on like at Indy, where you're the one stood out there exposed. You've got nowhere to run.
Well, did you see the one that had to grab the tyre? There was a tyre that rolled out, and he basically
Ferrucci's.
I can't remember which car, but basically it rolled out. He did he grabbed his own tyre, and then sort of yanked the other one. Yeah. And then he's like a dad that's carried like two of his kids, back home from the zoo. And I imagine these tyres are very heavy.
Yeah, they're not ridiculous, but I think they're like 25 kilos a pop.
Okay.
Yeah.
But and the drifting out, I think it was Herta smashed into a teammate. Some other guy all of them they can't just take off normally. They go full speed. Obviously, one of the wheels locks up, and then they go whee.
Well, the problem is because the gearing's so high for the high top speed. So basically, they have to dump the clutch to get them out of the pits. Yeah,
I believe the phrase is called Dave, drop a gear and disappear. I think that's the technical term.
Yeah.
So they just dump it and take off, which this year seemed to be particularly bad because what was there three? There was Catherine Legg, Rinus VK, and someone else.
Herta
was it Herta? Had it, So I don't recall them being that many previously.
It looked incredible. I have some other questions, Dave.
Can
when
I
they
quickly
take
ask
off the wheels and they have the bolt guy, what happens to the bolts on the old tires?
I'm trying to, because on supercars say that's the original, like the nut will stay in the gun and then go back on.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that's a similar deal with, so it's the same nut going back on.
Because they took
it's definitely not the same for F1.
And then it comes off, and then they go. I'd have to say that the pit crews at Indy look, they are absolutely crazy.
They got balls of steel.
But the who's got real balls of steel though, Boovy? The safety car guys. Every time they had a crash, they would come out of nowhere in their
AMR medical team.
They would come out of nowhere, and then the guy on the passenger side or whatever, he would jump into oncoming traffic, and this isn't 60.
But the difference with them though is once they call a yellow, the pits are shut, so there's no reason for anyone to be driving around fast.
I heard about that. They kept saying it's not like F1. There was a lot of talk.
That's the key difference, and this is what I keep arguing about with supercars, that when you call a yellow, it should be pits shut, so that you don't have, and F1's the same problem, that then you've got people racing, and even though there's like the bullshit with VSC and all that, people are they're still looking at the dash trying to race, whereas if you neutralize it straight, like something happens, which IndyCar granted you have bigger accidents and whatever, like Kirkwood ending up on his lid and things like that, where you do need to get medical to them generally quicker. But if you neutralize it straight away, it means that the safety crew can get out there straight away without that fear of cars going at full tilt.
Now, quick question. With the gearing, I've noticed, because I'm noticing on certain cars, they were going between fourth and fifth. I didn't see anybody use sixth gear at all. Or was that too tall for that?
They would have still been using sixth, but depending on.
I didn't really see it. Like it was right in the middle of the straight, and they only went up to fifth. They didn't drop down. They didn't go to sixth.
They definitely would have been using sixth.
I didn't see it when I was on. I didn't see it anywhere, but definitely it was 4 or 5. If it did go to 6, I maybe missed it, but definitely from what I saw in one of the car shots, it only it was just showing up to 5.
And I think you probably find that the 6 would be kind of like an overdrive.
Okay.
Where they're using that more like when they're saving fuel and that, rather than being in battle.
Okay, fair enough.
Whereas in qualifying, they're probably more jumping between fifth and sixth.
Fifth and sixth. Okay.
Yeah, but that's why like the first ski is so long, because they'll have like fourth, fifth, and sixth are essentially like your race gears, where you're only flicking and you've only got small jumps between them. Yeah.
That'd be more for a street circuit.
Yeah, so like a street circuit, you would have even gaps between the changes kind of thing in general. Whereas for Indianapolis or any of the ovals, you'd have instead of first being back here, your first starts there or whatever, and then you've got third, fourth, fifth, sixth, like that. Whereas normally you have kind of first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Yeah.
What about on the super speedways, like Texas? That'd be just 6 gear all the way, wouldn't it?
No, you still then you'd have a fourth, fifth, sixth setup similar to Indy as well. Yeah, just so if you do lose a bit of momentum, you can click it back quickly, to get your acceleration.
No, all good.
Dave, what I do have to say, there's one thing Indy didn't have that F1 still wins. So we all discussed FM with his radio chat. My mate Stingray, who I'm getting the feeling, Dave, he's not actually very good, and he's just got a wacky name. I made notes of some of the words that they said when the cars crashed. Stingray just said, "What the heck, man?" as he spun around into the wall. Grosjean just said, "It's toasted." No one yells at their pit crew or anything. It's all just, it seems very polite, except for the guy we were discussing. Who was the one that had the phantom push, and then he blamed it on other people?
Stingray.
That was Stingray.
It was actually Stingray.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't happy. I'm not going to say who it was, but it was Graham Rahal.
Also, it wasn't anybody. He crashed on his own.
When I watched I'm like, you saw it happen, and then you saw his reaction, and you're a bit like, oh, I didn't realize that was that close. And then you watch the replay, and you're like,
it wasn't close.
Did he see the same thing I just saw, or
Did he get? Wouldn't the crew have just told him, "Look, don't say anything. It was all you. Don't blame anyone. Don't say anything stupid."
Depends though, because what will happen? He'll go into the medical car, and then because essentially, if you've had an accident, you have to go to the medical center and get checked out. And that's pretty much regardless of what happens, I think, in IndyCar. Whereas F1, I think they'll only take you to the medical center if you trigger the G sensor or whatever in the car. Whereas I think IndyCar is basically, you have an accident, they take you back to the medical center, you get checked out, and then you get released. So you've got out of... Yeah, you can get yourself back to the pits and whatever kind of thing on the scooters and that. Whereas IndyCar, regardless if you've had an impact, they will take you to the medical center, even if it's just a little tap. As far as I recall. So then you've got out of the car, you've unplugged your radio as you get out of the car, so you got no contact with the team. They put you in the medical car straight to the medical center. You come out and the TV crews are stood there at the medical center. So you walk out straight into the interview without talking to anyone. Like, you probably haven't even seen the replay or anything at that point. And that's why sometimes you get really good reactions like that straight out of the thing, especially especially if someone's had a decent hit. Like, they can be really fucking like they're all right, but they're fired up because they've had a big hit or whatever, and they're like, whoa. And like it is a brilliant way that the TV does it, because then you'd go away, you'd watch the replay with your team and be like, maybe you should have looked at the replay before, blaming Graham Rahal, who's America's favorite son kind of thing. And then you'd kind of go like, maybe I'm going to need to retract a statement here. And nobody's going to care because, you haven't got a million Twitter followers or whatever like Graham Rahal does. And
exactly.
You just look like a dickhead forever because no one hears your retraction or, hey, sorry, Graham, I kind of got that wrong.
You stuffed up there. And don't worry.
Dave, one of the other things that I was looking at, does Penske own the track or something? What's their connection
Penske bought the circuit and the series.
So a
You kidding me?
Penske car won Indy 500 under suspicious circumstances on a tractor. Again, I've gone down too many rabbit holes this week.
Yeah,
and
yes,
I've
you have.
had a lot of things.
So Roger actually, he used to, like, he obviously owns the team, whatever. He used to actually call the races for one of the drivers in his team. Like, he would be quite active, within the team and all that. The opportunity came up where the Holmans wanted to sell the Speedway and the series. They had owned it. Roger took the opportunity to buy it or whatever, to improve it and everything. As soon as he purchased it, he stood back from the team. And Tim Cindric essentially runs it day to day without the input from. There would be like higher level decisions or whatever, but day to day, Roger's not supposed to be involved in it at all. Which no one told him to do that. He just said, "Look, I'm going to step away. Like, I won't be an active part of the team during the race weekends anymore, because obviously it's not a good look."
Yeah.
If I'm calling the shots on one of my cars, and
you're in the series.
Well, because that was one of the things they pointed out when what's his name, Newgarden ran into the stadium after he won. They're like, imagine Max did that after Abu Dhabi and just having a bunch of Lewis fans come in and try to shank you for stealing the race.
Which also there's probably as well choose your audience.
Yes.
Ericsson probably wouldn't have quite got the same reaction as what Newgarden did.
I reckon I could see Max doing that at Zandvoort if he wanted.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you Max may never get out of the crowd if he did that at Zandvoort.
Exactly. That's true.
Yeah, you kind of choose your audience with things like that. No, that would be a brave Max to
It takes a brave man to know when you're not wanted.
Exactly. That's a smart man to know. It takes a smart man to know where you run into a crowd and where you won't.
But there's also like some of the things with IndyCar where I quite enjoyed that, where they can go and do things like that and they're not going to get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
Like the victory celebrations were held back another minute or whatever because he'd gone running through the crowd. They're going to go, hey, that looked awesome on TV.
Exactly.
I feel like Indy's more relaxed than F1. F1, you probably would have got a sanction or a fine for that because they're like, no, we have a strict window of when we do stuff. Whereas the Indy seem like, from what I've seen from all the promotional stuff, the Indy 500 is their Monaco Grand Prix, but done on a much like this is the number one race in the world. Because I remember the F1 kept mentioning, after this, there's an Indy 500, have a look at it. It's pretty good. Whereas Indy was like, oh, there was a race at Monaco. Anyway, that's shit. Back to us. We're the best. And they're like, this is what real racing is. I'm like, it's not bad. Your pit lanes are crazy. But they seem to be more lenient on, like, if it looks good for the camera, we'll do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I like that because they do understand that there needs to be that entertainment side of things. Yeah. And sometimes there will be that little bit of leniency.
And it's the Monaco one just seems out of touch. Like, it's like, look at this fancy restaurant. None of you are ever going to this restaurant. Whereas at Indy, it's like, well, there's an off chance that you could go to Indy and you could eat a hot dog there. No one's going to Monaco and be like...
exactly.
The funny thing was I was watching an interview with Newgarden after the race and someone came up to him with a bag of McDonald's because Roger had sent someone down to McDonald's to get food for everyone because you guys must be starving. So they went and bought a shit ton of McDonald's. And then here you go, Newgarden, he's like, oh my God, this is awesome. And he's doing the interview while he's just throwing chips in his mouth.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Whereas like F1, there would be no, you cannot bring in a branded bag
name.
For starters because McDonald's hasn't paid money to be there.
I've been to Monaco, and I don't think there was a McDonald's there. I think we paid many a euro for food there.
Yeah,
You would have.
And
yeah. But see, like F1, if I brought that bottle into the press conference or whatever, it would be
Exactly
no. It needs to be a Heineken branded bottle, or
another circular object on grass thing happened at I believe it was the European Circle on Grass competition, and they had a Coca-Cola on the table, and this is one of probably the better grass on ball players took it off and replaced it with a bottle of water because he didn't want kids to see drinking Coke. And people,
That's
it was half of them were like, "Good on you," but the other half were like, "Mate, relax. You're paid billions of dollars. Just leave the can of Coke there. They paid
just leave it there. It's not going to make any difference."
Yeah, you're not. The kids aren't playing better because they're drinking Coke or not drinking Coke.
Okay.
So I think everyone's choice.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's time for Boovy's segment finally.
Yes, finally. I know. We've actually haven't talked any nonsense for a full hour. Wow.
We've got a stinger for that if I can find it.
If you can find it, yep.
Here we go. Boovy's F2 report.
Love that intro.
Are we making it all Boovy?
I don't know. Am I going to go big Dave or not?
I'm trying to figure out how to. I'll just remove us.
It's up. Okay. So it's just me now. Well, qualifications going to. Sorry, let me start that again. My F2 review for Monaco. So the way they did qualifying this year, which has been the same since about 2017, 2 groups. So they had a Group A and a Group B. So teams they had basically the way it was split up was half the people in Group A, half the people in Group B. Strangely enough, when I did all the checking and all that, it split. So basically the 11 teams had a driver in each of the groups, funnily enough, with 22 drivers. Anyway, top 3 in Group A, we had Martins, Doohan, and the Shaw. So in that qualification, there was a couple of small accidents, nothing really major. But yeah, so that was the top 3 in Group A. Then the top 3 in Group B were Vesti, Pocher, and Maloney. Now, Rob had brought up something in previous saying that whoever qualified first in a particular group, they'd be first, and then the times were all then calculated afterwards like that. So say Group B would have a better qualification, then they might have a better the track would have gripped up a lot more, and they would get faster times than say the people in Group A or whatever. And because of that, there was a bit of a disparity in the actual driving, in the actual orders and that. So what they did this year was whoever qualified first and whoever got the fastest time, their group was on the odd side of the field. So in this case, Vesti, he was the fastest, qualified first. And so the other side, so Group A was you had Martins who qualified first. He's second on the grid. So they did an alternation between Group A, Group B, going all the way down to the end. So the top 6 for the main race was Vesti, Martins, Pocher. Doohan actually did really well. He qualified second in his group, so he was a 4th overall. So it was 4th there, Maloney and Vachur. The sprint race. So basically, lap 1, typical F2, straight away, bang, accident. We had Kushmani hit by Novalak, and also we had Insani hit by Beauchamp as well. So quite a bit of action there on the first lap on the sprint race. Took a bit of time for them to clean up all that. So by the time the restart happened, it was race 6. And then because of that, Novalak got a 10-second penalty for causing a collision because of that and everything else. And then Cordell, race was pretty much, then they just kept racing for a bit. Nothing much happened. Maybe not even, wasn't even any overtakes. Then lap 22, Cordell crashed. and then got him out of the way, and then Berman retired on lap 25 because of car failure. And then Herger got, can't remember what I wrote there. Something happened to him as well, and he copped the penalty as well. So for the end of the sprint race, we had the Japanese driver, Aizawa. He was 10th. He was the number one. He basically with the reverse grid order in the sprint race. Aizawa finished first. Daruvula finished second, and Crawford finished third. Doohan finished sixth in that race, so he got some points there. The feature race on Sunday. Not sure exactly what happened, but the race started 15 minutes late. I managed to watch this one slightly live, but not quite. Clean start, no real issues there. On the first lap, however, Cordell actually hit the wall, and then Leclerc went out with a brake. So there was a issue there. Leclerc was out on lap 9 with a brake issue. Fittipaldi caused a virtual safety car because his engine blew on lap 19. Spectacular, just smoking that as he was coming out of the tunnel, heading through the little side entry there, the drive-through regards to that. So that was pretty much there too. Virtual car. Dennis Hauer got a 5-second penalty for getting a collision on lap 1. And then, unfortunately, Doohan, out of nowhere, his rear end decided to slide out and just crashed into the back of the wall there. So that caused the safety car. And then, as the guys were driving around during that safety car, one of the guys, I can't remember who it was, almost hit the marshals that were actually out on the track at the time. Watching the replay, they showed the replay afterwards, and it was just absolutely ridiculous how close this driver. Actually, it was Martin. It was actually Martin. Sorry, how close he actually got to Doohan, or the marshals looking after Doohan's car. It was like he missed it by about maybe less than 30 centimeters. That's how close he was. It was crazy. And then a whole bunch of pit stops. Then they had to actually red flag the race because of that. Because one, the fact that it wasn't safe, they had to clean out all the debris, and two, because the fact that they used so much fire extinguisher, they had to actually mop it all up so the dry could be dry enough. Great. And then after that, a lot of, geez, I can't read my own writing. That's how bad it was. That's how bad my writing is.
This is why you write it on computer.
So anyway, I think so. So after all that, the end result was Vesti finished first in the feature race. Pocher finished second, and Maloney finished third. And Doohan was a DNF in that. So overall, typical F2, always some carnage everywhere, always fun. Unlike F1, we do get to see some overtaking, even at Monaco, which is a great thing. I'm actually enjoying the F2 more than I am the F1, watching it. It's actually brilliant. And so I'll give the top 3 in the Drivers' Championship. So with that, Vesti's now first in the Drivers' Championship on 89. Pocher's still up there, the Frenchie, on 84. And Aizawa's third on 69 points. Our Aussie Doohan is 13th in the championship on 28 points. The team's championship, we have Prima on top with 130. Art second at 108. Dams are on 103. And the rest are below triple figures, so I'm not even going to mention them. So there's no point there. And then, yeah, it was pretty much it. I enjoyed the race. Seeing the super softs out there, it was actually really good on the cars. Showed how, even though they're using really like the oldest Pirelli technology, it looks like the tyres are still lasting on the F2 cars, even with the super soft. So that's actually pretty good. And now my predictions for Spain, because we do have a race this week as well in Spain. So much.
Ooh.
It's good.
So much racing.
So much racing, yes. So I'm guessing for Spain, I'm going to go with my man Pocher. I reckon he'll win the feature race. I'm going second, Martin. Martin's for second, and Vesti for third. Doohan, I just hope he gets some points. That's how I'm seeing him at the moment. It's just that he's just had such a bad season and has had the worst luck. If he just gets enough points, it'll just be. I think it's just. I'm just happy for him to get points. That's all that matters.
So
that's. Yep.
Who's Doohan driving for?
Doohan.
Which team?
Doing?
Team Australia.
Give me a sec.
No, he's still Alpine Junior team, isn't he? But
He's Alpine Junior team, but he is driving for.
Oh, so wait, can you have two separate?
No.
Like an F1
No.
reserve?
So basically, he's an academy driver for Alpine, but he's in driving for Invictica Virtuoso Racing,
which they're not anywhere in the championship. It's not like his teammates.
He's got Cordell as his teammate, so they're not really doing the best either.
Yeah, so it's not like, you know, he's.
Let me put it this way. They're ninth in the team championships, and Doohan has scored nearly all the points.
Yeah, so it's not like he's at Prema and having bad luck. He's in Victus, and he scored 24 of the 28 points. Yeah. So I think I might have asked this before, but Vesti isn't part of any junior team, is he?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Porsche's Sauber Academy and ESL is
Sauber, Red Bull Academy.
Red Bull, isn't he? Yep.
Yep. And so is Helga, and I think Maloney is as well.
Mm.
Yeah. So Rob's favorite guy, Berman, he's currently 8th in the championship. I just wanted to mention that.
But I'm just thinking, like, Vesti, he'll be in a similar position to Dragovic from last year if he wins.
I think so,
you haven't got an opportunity to go anywhere.
No.
Whereas
so basically,
Porsche and ESL could potentially, if it finished now, you could see them potentially stepping up.
I could see Alsawa going to, say, Toro Rosso.
Toro Rosso. Yeah.
Yeah, have the two Japanese drivers racing each other there. That'd be interesting.
Do you think that AlphaTauri or Red Bull would go for that, though, taking two
probably not.
Honda drivers?
No.
They could do it just as a petty maneuver.
No, but
without like being a jerk about it, realistically, they're there because of the Honda deal.
Yeah.
The Red Bull probably wouldn't have signed either of those guys without Honda, and Tsunoda probably got promoted more because of Honda rather than his ultimate results. Like you potentially, someone like Lawson would be already in that seat had.
If it wasn't for the Honda deal,
yeah,
it would have been. But with that, but then ISO quite literally is actually driving really well. Like he's doing all the right things, and that I could actually see him, like, if Yuki's contract running out this year. I can't remember.
I don't think Red Bull contracts mean anything unless you're Max Verstappen.
Unless you're Max, okay, it's a different story.
Yeah, so and even then, Max is like, I might just quit.
Yeah, but Max's was get to the end of his current contract.
Yeah, so that's a fair.
Which, like Webber, quite famously, he would only do 1-year deals, but he had a very good working relationship with Dietrich as well. Whereas, like all the junior drivers, you're year to year until you're like major. Max and Seb are the only ones that would have had a proper contract.
So, and probably Danny as well.
Yeah, Dan would have got to the point where he had a but I think even his were only 2-year contract.
Something like that. Yeah. He's good. They've got about 5 academy drivers in the series. It's ridiculous. Like, you can't actually.
Plenty to choose from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that plenty to choose from, but then choosing a teammate for Max, you go hire a guy from somewhere else.
Well, you do wonder though with some of their whether their helmet Marco system is the right thing.
Maybe that might change. Who knows now? The fact that
the Dietrich's gone.
Dietrich's gone, so that could be a completely different matter now. So
because realistically, the Seb, which was a co-thing with BMW,
yeah,
Dan is probably the most successful Red Bull junior.
yeah, because he's actually came through the ranks.
Yeah, Max only came in realistic, like at the very last minute.
Yeah,
became a Red Bull driver. Like it hasn't really been that. You've got a lot of guys that are pretty good, but yeah, you're probably looking at Dan's probably the most successful. That was just there purely
Red Bull Junior,
Red Bull,
just a
Red
like
Bull,
a proper Red Bull driver,
yeah.
For sure.
Which granted, Seb was, but Seb was also a BMW junior at the same time. Like he had both the organisations behind him.
Yeah, but Dan was just Red Bull, and that's it. Nobody else. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because depending on what Checo does, there's going to be some interest. There could be something going on there at Red Bull. Who knows? They might bring in 2 new drivers for next year, depending on what happens.
Toro Rosso.
Both at Toro Rosso / Red Bull. For both of them, I reckon
3 new drivers. Does
3
Dan count as a new driver?
No, he's a Rookie of the Year pick.
He'll be the Rookie of the Year pick for next year. If he comes back in.
So 2 new drivers at AlphaTauri.
I guarantee. Yeah,
and then one returning driver at Red Bull.
Yep.
all before the Spanish Grand Prix. You heard it first with Dave.
No, I said
there's still time.
That's true. You never know
it's only Thursday night.
Exactly.
Do you reckon, Dave, if Checo does another qualifying blunder, he gets a warning from helmet? The old
on the helmet system, he's probably already had a warning.
He probably has.
So how many more silly qualifyings do you think he's got left in him that before they go? Maybe it's the pressure's getting to you.
As I said, the big thing this year is that they're
too
far
dominant.
In front. Yeah,
they're just way too dominant.
They don't need that secondary person scoring points.
So do you reckon they've done even worse than Dave and just told Checo, we don't really care what you do. You're just not challenging for the championship. We just need you to buffer us up some points so Aston don't catch up to us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. As long as what is the
way it's going?
They're double their points, Dave. They are essentially 129 points clear, which is 4 races in front?
Basically, 5 almost. Actually, over 5, Matt. It's 25 points a race.
Oh, yeah.
So if you just go by winning.
So Max would be leading the Constructors' Championship.
On his own?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're at that point. It essentially doesn't matter who's in the second car. They've got both.
Break the record. I wonder if they can actually break a record by actually winning every single race in the season.
No.
Well, one of the scarier rounds was this weekend.
It was, definitely.
Or last weekend, yeah.
Last weekend. So this weekend, with weather, it could be the same too.
Checo's going to crash into Max, or someone's going to take out Max in a desperate attempt.
Well, the problem is now if Max doesn't, if something happens to Max, say like a gearbox blows up or, hydraulic issue, is Checo going to be there just to win?
Nope.
Probably not. I reckon it'll be Alonso win.
I reckon Alonso will destroy him.
Yeah. And that's where the chances are you will have one race where Max doesn't finish due to mechanical, especially over, 48 races or whatever that they are this year.
73, Dave.
Wait a second. 73. What is it? No. Main race is 22.
And we've lost 2.
Yeah, we have. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. 22 normal races and then 6 sprint races.
Fun fact, when I was reading the F1
I've been
rule
promoted.
book of 2023, the maximum amount of races you are allowed is 24. The minimum is 8.
Oh,
For it
which
to
I don't
be a world
they consider
championship.
a championship.
Also, Dave, do you want to know a fun rule about the podium and cameramen?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So here we go. Because I told you I looked up wacky words in the thing. The ideal position for the TV camera is immediately opposite the podium at the same height. Under no circumstances is there to be a TV man on the podium. I love that they've actually got a rule that says no.
You can't have a
We've told
cameraman on the.
you, section whatever. I should have written it down. You're not allowed on the podium, so back you go. And let Also, I don't know if you noticed, Alonso had 1 foot on the
Yes, I saw that photo.
I think he's telling something, Dave. He's getting there. He's going to win.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He's the Nostradamus of the F1 world.
I love the psychological though from him with something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Where that would have just purely been like, I'm going to put my foot on there. They'll take photos of it. Watch Twitter lose its mind.
He's doing all of this. He's like, all I have to do is be nice to my idiot boss's son. I'm just here to piss fart around. Every day's a school day. I think Alonso's just doing like, what can I do that's not offensive or like violent? It's just little shit, shit kicker things that I can do. If people think I'm dating Taylor Swift, maybe I'm dating Taylor Swift. It's essentially like you can put your hand above someone else's car, you just can't touch it. So he's like,
no.
Well, it was like Seb saying, I want to touch Hamilton's wing.
Also, Dave and Booby, have you seen that obviously the Rookie of the Year didn't get paid enough? He's selling his Enzo.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's everyone's thinking that he's getting a new car for
Aston Martin.
Yeah, he's getting a new Aston Martin. What's the hypercar, the Valkyrie?
Yeah.
Everyone's saying that he's
finally gets his Red Bull that he always wanted.
Yes. The Valkyrie. That's actually not that
I reckon Alonso's just gonna Oh yeah. Have you seen him watering the plants?
No.
Again, this is just I think it's just peak Alonso. He's up in one of the hospitality booths and he's just walking around watering all the plants. He's generally living the best life he can. Just shits to because you know who would annoy
the piss out of everything.
Well, you know who would get annoyed about that 1 foot on the podium?
Max.
Hamilton or Russell. They would. Oh, yeah. I reckon they would tell, and they'd be looking down and be like, "Shove over, move across." I think he's just doing it to get a rise out of people.
Yeah.
Because if you see at the end of the race, the Red Bull guys come up and congratulate, Bestie Esty and Alonso, and they seem to be having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like I think Ocon was just happy to be there. Like he was surprised that he's like, "Why am I here?" Like no one overtook me. What's going on?
Yeah.
I'll take this. And Alonso's just used to coming second or third now, and he's just like, I'm just here for the champagne. I reckon even if he'll finish second in the championship, and then Papa Stroll will have to buy him he's probably done a deal. Who was the guy that did the points deal that almost bankrupted the team?
Raikkonen.
I reckon he's done a deal. He goes, if I compliment your son on radio every race, and I get a podium, you've got to buy me a Valkyrie at the end of the season. I'll even sell my Enzo to make room for it.
That would be
also, I want fresh flowers in the pit lane at all times.
Yeah.
And I can water them.
Did I say how much that Enzo was roughly going for, or was it going through an auction?
It's going to auction, and I believe it's number one. Supposedly it's like the first one of the...
Normally Ferrari would keep that one.
Or maybe they're going to buy it. They'll buy it off him.
Maybe, who knows?
It's the Skoda number 1, which has been verified. Oh, it's like a restoration.
So it's
But,
not. So
it's
not
barely
number 1.
done anything. He's probably never used it, and probably.
So the car's sat in a garage somewhere, in a climate control garage somewhere, with all its fluids drained, and it's just been sitting like that.
Well, there was a couple of years ago, Nico Rosberg had a 300 SL or something that he drove around Monaco, that he just had in an underground garage. And he liked to point out that it had equal machinery to the car next to him, and he could drive this car faster. He said, no matter who sits in his car, he said, no matter what car, as long as it's equal machinery, I will win. That's all he said for the whole ride. Everything has to be equal.
Oh boy!
I think
we're pretty much done.
Oh, also, what's his name? Some dude from Red Bull's going to McLaren. Are they just poaching people now, Dave?
Basically.
Yeah. And I think Red Bull may have had some issues with salary cap. So
they're just clearing out the salary cap.
There might be if some of the higher paid employees decide to leave.
That might be better for us.
Yeah.
Is this basically like, we don't want to be caught again with too many sandwiches? So
yeah, well, it's already too late, but like for this year. But there might be a bit of we can employ 3 junior people for 1 Rob Marshall.
Yeah.
So
there's that too.
So basically, you can hire 3 juniors to learn off Adrian, and then potentially one of them could be a new Adrian.
Well, you've probably also it's hard in organisations like that where you've got that ceiling that you can go to because you've had someone you've had someone like that in that position for such a long time that then you get that, which we've seen that with the aerodynamics team where they lost Adrian Newey's 2 best junior guys coming through they've gone elsewhere because they were never going to end up as the lead aerodynamicist with Adrian there. And you're probably seeing a similar thing. And their attitude's probably a little bit like, well, if he goes, he's trained up these younger blokes that are ready to step up into that role anyway. So we've got the depth.
Now, if you were hired now in the aerodynamics department, like let's say they hired us 3. They said, look, we've got money now. We can pay you guys whatever amount. You'd be thinking one of us could be taking over. Like, in terms of you'd have to be there for a good 5-10 years, and then by that stage Adrian's like, you know what, time to I don't know, live in my farm. I don't know, they're all like Adrian Clarkson, Jeremy Clarkson, and then it's just like in 10 years time, one of you 3 that we've hired on no money at all will become the new head aero guy, and then the other 2 will just get poached by I don't know, Haas and Porsche
Williams.
When they come in. Or Andretti will steal you in 10 years' time when he's finally allowed to enter his 14th team. And we finally have
if he's allowed.
And then when we have 14 teams, Dave, that means you're allowed 77 races. And they just you just have 2 races a week.
Midweek racing.
Midweek race, jeez.
You do what they do in Mario Kart. You go round one way and then you do a reverse on Sunday. There's no more qualifying. You just get your names dragged out of a hat.
No time for qualifying.
Yep. Super Saturday, reverse Sunday, get back on the plane, and then net zero by 2070 because you're not doing it by 2030 at this point.
Oh, no way.
Everyone's on a massive container jet. Like the ones they use in Fast and the Furious.
And they go to the moon.
Also, just side note, Dave, I was watching Fast and the Furious 1 just before. Remember how we were saying that after a point, Fast and the Furious just got sillier and sillier?
Yeah.
No, it was dumb from the start.
Was it?
I've forgotten how stupid the first movie was. And my better half even pointed out, said, you guys watch this. It's not clever. It's been dumb from the start. You just haven't seen it. because you watch it through your family eyes and think that everything's cool. It's a dumb movie. And then I said, quiet woman, and then I stormed off and left. She even said, when you leave, I'm changing the channel. I'm like, I'd expect nothing less.
But I hate to say it, she's right.
So
we're watching it through rose-tinted glasses, unfortunately.
But I think from now on, Dave, each week I'm going to give you a new F1 ruling fact.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
because e-scooter seem to like it. So that's all I need.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. We're coming up to.
So we're gonna have school time with Matt.
That's all right. That works out well. Jeez, we've got a busy 2 months. We've got a busy June, July coming up in terms of number of races. So many.
Yeah. There's not really a weekend off for the rest of the year, is there?
Oh, really?
No, we get July off. We get August, most of
summer
August.
break.
Summer break, August. So I'm looking at this. So with Spain, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 races in a row. Or not close enough to a row, 6 races in 8 weeks. And then after the break, 1, 2, 3.
So Dave, do you want to change your Dan replaces Checo thing? Like, do you want to take, I don't know, maybe Japan?
No,
still sticking with
Spain.
Spain.
You're sticking with your guns?
There's still time.
There's still time. I'm still sticking to when was it? Yeah, Spa.
What's happening in Spa? Is that when Dan's driving?
After Spa. No, sorry, it'd have to be Zandvoort. It'd have to be the Netherlands Grand Prix.
I feel like Dan's too busy interviewing other Australian singers now. He doesn't have time to race. He's a TV host for Red Bull TV and interviews Kylie Minogue. So
yeah, I think his tune would change very quickly if he was offered Checo's seat.
If he was offered Checo's seat, he would have pushed Kylie Minogue into the Mediterranean and jumped in that car. Faster than you could have said. 2016 pit change era. I'm sure he's forgotten about that.
Minor issues, e-scooter. There's still time.
Have you seen the footage of Dan when he went on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and even his little kid reminded him of it?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I've seen that one.
He comes up and he's like,
"Oh yeah, I saw that clip."
And he's like, "Remember what happened in Monaco?" And like Dan had his big, Dan smile, and then like obviously the PTSD came back, and he's like, "Yep, no, I remember that. Cool, thanks, kid.
Thanks for reminding me of that.
Time you left."
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
We've
only just gone over the hour, so
we did all right.
Yeah, we've done well.
So,
okay. Let's enjoy the racing over the weekend.
Yeah. And so we got F1 and Indy on the same weekend. Always good.
Yep. Again. We'll reconvene next Thursday.
Definitely.
Until then, we'll see you later.
See you.
Alonso for number 1. You heard it here first. Number 1.
Yes.